Oh, I guess we're live. I
We
can't hear
are.
anything. I guess
We
we are.
can't
I
hear
can't
anything. I
hear
can't hear anything
anything.
either. Yeah.
I can hear you though. I but I couldn't hear the warning. And usually when the warning's done, that's when I know I better start talking, but that didn't
I
happen.
was eagerly
Uh,
tapping on my ear.
yeah. Everybody, welcome to the Rebel News Daily live stream. I'm your host, Sheila Gunn Reid, with my co-host, Adam Soos, based in Calgary. I'm here northeast of Edmonton, Alberta. And it's a place where we can talk about the news of the day, the things that happen when it's much easier to talk about them in a casual way with all of you at home instead of a produced video. Adam, how was your weekend, by the way?
It was good. Yeah, it was good. It was a nice, rare, quiet one where I wasn't actually working all weekend. So it was a departure from the norm. So yeah, nice and restful for a change. Though it's always
Oh,
fun to get out there. So yeah.
I'm really glad because and the rest of the Calgary team, you guys are out there every single weekend, just covering freedom protests, pastor arrests. I mean, rebellious restaurants. The news never rests for us, and it's funny because the mainstream media, a lot of times they work 9 to 5, and I'm not sure how the news breaks around bankers hours, but I should tell everybody what we're doing here today. Even though we got off to a little bit of a rough start, this is the Rebel News Daily live stream. Used to just be hosted on Fridays just by Ezra Levant, but the pandemic struck, and even though we were all sort of grounded, we couldn't really travel, the news was changing day by day and sometimes hour by hour. And a lot of you at home were sent home from work. You got work from home orders, or you were laid off altogether in some instances. And we thought, let's sit down. We'll talk about the news together as it happens and give our viewers a chance to interact with each other, but also give us a chance to be supported by them completely willingly. So the live stream itself used to just exist over on YouTube, wherein you could give us something called a super chat. But then Biden got elected and YouTube didn't have to pretend anymore. So they demonetized us completely. Prior to that, they had taken away our ability to take ad revenue, but we still had super chats. Then they said, no, you're not even safe enough for that. So regardless of all of that, we still broadcast on YouTube because there are nearly 1.6 million YouTube subscribers that watch us over there. Some of you hate watch us, but I don't care. I'll take the click. And so we broadcast there. We don't want to abandon you, but we might encourage you to move over to the non-censorship platforms of Odyssey, SuperView, and Rumble. And all those platforms have the ability for us to monetize our content over there, so you can support the work that we do as creators and as journalists. But they describe themselves as politically neutral, which I think is the best way to be. It should be the social media should be the new public square, but instead it's just the new Pravda in some
New
cases. So
soapbox.
yeah, exactly. So the moral of the story is we're going to start broadcasting on YouTube, but there will come a time in the show today where we might get a little too hot for YouTube, because not only are they doing the soft censorship of demonetization, there are things that we absolutely cannot talk about on YouTube. So you will find trailers, we call them, for our videos over on YouTube that suggest that if you want to see the full video, you've got to go to another platform. And one of those things that we can't talk about is we can't even question the advice of local public health authorities, because somehow that's blasphemy. You can't see these normal people, well-paid bureaucrats, you can't question them. They're completely infallible. So once we start talking about things that happen in the COVID realm, we have to move away from YouTube altogether, and hopefully you'll catch up to us on one of those other sites. Now, Adam, I was not in the
Yes.
morning live stream meeting because I was hosting my portion of the daily meeting that we have. So maybe I'll just ask you to lead off with our first story, if you could.
Yeah, so certainly, first off, I mean, I'm ultimately going to be jumping back to you here. And my question is effectively, what are you doing tonight and where will people be able to find you? That's what we really want to talk about. An exciting event coming up, Christians fighting for their freedoms. And this is probably one of the events that seems to be having one of the biggest attendances, one of the biggest draws. You can check out this event live if you're in the area, or you can attend online. So it's an event being run by the Democracy Fund. If you go to the democracyfund.ca, you can check out the event, get your tickets, whether to attend in person or online. An incredible event, and I believe are you taking on MC duties? Is that my understanding?
Oh Lord, I hope not.
Or are
But
you
no.
speaking? I don't know. I know that
Yes.
Dr. Julie Panesi is going to be there. Yourself, Pastor Artur
Yeah.
Pawlowski. Go. You know more than I do probably about this because you're going.
Sure. This is part of the Faith and Democracy series being hosted by the Democracy Fund. And that's a registered Canadian charity. You can attend online or in person in Whitby. I think tickets for in person are approaching like 700 or 800. So things might be getting
Over 8,
towards.
apparently.
It's over 8, so it's getting towards where we might need to cap it. So, but if you want to attend in person, if you're like in the Greater Toronto area, go right now to the democracyfund.ca/events to get your tickets. It's the Christian Fight for Freedom, especially during the times of COVID, featuring pastors Art Pawlowski, we know, the Polish Lion of Calgary. Adam, you've done so much great work on that story. Henry Hildebrandt from the Church of God in Aylmer. He had his church seized by the state for about 90 days and over $250,000 in fines that he was levied before he could get possession of his church again. And the real shame in that is, much like Art Pawlowski's church, there's a daycare in his church, like a little preschool. And so when they seize the church, they cut the children off from that. And this one, all of these guys are great, but I'm really excited to hear from Pastor Phil Hutchings, because Phil Hutchings, outside of us, a largely unreported story of an arrested pastor in New Brunswick. His church is Our Tabernacle Church, and the church itself was under constant surveillance, harassment from the local police because he did not do all the things the COVID cops wanted him to do, including requiring his church to quit singing. That was a bridge truly too far for Phil's church. And there's so much footage of the police invading the church. They arrested his associate pastor, Cody Butler, during Thanksgiving services. Phil was then summoned to court on the Friday, and he was held for over 7 days. And so he's being helped through fightthefines.com, through the Democracy Fund. Just his wife, he said, is his rock through all of this. It was just, another Christian pastor in Canada behind bars. And again, that story went largely underreported in the media. And really, this is the first time that people are going to hear from Pastor Phil in his own words. So I'm really excited to talk about that. And like you, Adam, I've just got a real passion for religious freedom and just advocating for those pastors who stand up against the state to do what they see is their pastoral duty for their congregations.
Well, and I think we do have to support and applaud these pastors. And this is, like you mentioned, a broader religious freedom conversation. It isn't necessarily about Christianity. Christianity happened to be the group that was attacked here. But whatever your stripe, atheist, agnostic, Muslim, Sikh, it doesn't matter. This is a story that it's the old quote we've heard time and time again. First they came for the socialists. I didn't say anything. Well, first they came for the Christians this time. This is an event that I'm extremely excited for. I'll be with Pastor Artur Pawlowski this evening, making sure everything goes well on the technical side. But hearing these stories matters because, and to echo Pastor Artur's talking points, when you talk about the solidarity movement, it was the church that was there at the start, John Paul II in Gdańsk, which I'm pronouncing wrong, but the shipyard where the solidarity movement stemmed from. It was the religious communities and orders that helped start the fight and unified the people. And that's when the people were able to gather and stand together. So this is very much sort of a turning point in society. These pastors willing to take a stand because so many churches didn't take the stand. You and I being Catholic, obviously, I think there was a lack of adequate response from some Catholic voices. So to support those Christian pastors who stepped up and understanding they might go to jail, they might have these massive fines, being passive and just quietly getting through this was the easy thing to do, but these pastors knew it wasn't the right thing to do. So grab some tickets, check it out, whether you can get there in person or online. If we can have the biggest crowd ever for this event, I think these pastors would really appreciate that they're not going to be forgotten. Lots of these pastors, we think of this as having happened back then. They're still facing legal battles. Pastor Arthur is, all these pastors still facing massive fines. So the fight is far from over. So show up tonight. It's going to be a good night.
Yes, I'm hosting, or at least co-leading, a conversation with the pastors. We have a question and answer session with myself and Dr. Julie Pinessi. I think I think I'm supposed to give about 5 minutes of why this matters to me. And a lot of that, outside of my own religious upbringing, I feel like I was truly radicalized and weaponized by my trip to Kurdistan in late 2019. So just before the pandemic struck and attacked our churches. So if you want to hear my story of radicalization in the name of religious freedom, be sure to tune in tonight. And I think just the enormity of the ticket sales here really shows how out of step the mainstream media and the politicians are with the general public on this issue. I've been to Grace Life Church, where people who are new to the church say, I thought I was an atheist until I saw what was happening to the church. And there's a lot of that happening, and we're seeing it unfolding in the churches as their congregations boom, because other people are coming to these churches because they say, my own church abandoned me. And they're looking to this church that did the right thing.
I think almost all the pastors who have been in jail are looking for new buildings because they simply cannot understand it. It's that principled witness of self-sacrifice and saying, listen, don't come after my flock, but I'm not going to take this, and you can deal with me. That capacity, it shows that we've heard time and time again, Pastor Tim Stevens, Pastor Arthur Pawlowski, Pastor James Coates, the primacy of Christ is essential to their life. They aren't going to compromise on those convictions. So if you want to see those unrivaled and real, how often is it that we see uncompromising, principled people in society? Well, these people, they're all going to be under one roof, at least digitally, if nothing else, tonight at one event together. I think it's a superstar lineup. And then I heard the individual doing some of the questioning and giving a bit of a testimony is pretty solid too. That'd be you, Sheila.
Oh, I don't know. But I am excited that it really shows the diversity of Christianity. All these guys are very different. They come from different walks of life, different faith backgrounds, different faith practices. But for them, their one duty was to obey God and scripture as they interpret it over and above the state. That is the one uniting factor with these men. And I'm very excited to hear from them anyways. I could talk about it forever, but I should save that for tonight because I'm supposed to come up with a speech that I haven't written yet. So I'll do that this afternoon. Just, clip this, guys, put it up.
The next thing I wanted to get into, and if AD can get the clip ready and pull it up, is this weird patriot demonstration in the United States.
God.
As he's pulling up, it's hauntingly reminiscent of, do you remember the CIA bros at the protest? They're all wearing the same watch and different colored golf shirts that are the same brand. We are normal protesters. This reeked of that, certainly. So if AD's got that ready and can pull it up, if we're not getting audio, that's okay. We can keep on talking through it.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah. So matching.
You want me to believe these? Yeah, give me a break. Matching jackets. This is. Yeah.
They're wearing masks. This is Antifa, Black Bloc, liberals. Every time I've ever seen any sort of conservative, even alt-right, if you want to characterize it as that thing, I've never seen them wearing masks. I mean, maybe the Capitol prosecution. Capitol riot, quote unquote, prosecution garnered this response. Someone else actually commented, it was funny on the Twitter post that none of them have guts or anything, which it's kind of a bit of a, you see the militia guys, and there's always at least one or two guys who have had a few too many beers over their lifetimes. Not a single guy with a gut there. And then if AD can pull it up, I shared a tweet. If AD can pull it up, they showed them the cops stopped traffic. Here's audio, the cops stopped traffic and all these guys are loading into a U-Haul. So media's characterizing this as like a terrorist takeover, and it's a massive threat to the safety of society. And then cops, they rented their little U-Haul and they're loading up into the back with the cooperation of cops. So even if it is real, it's hardly the militaristic coup. It looks like a peaceful protest, but I'm having a hard time believing it's even real.
I do not believe that is real. That is a Lincoln Project field trip to the Capitol.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so fake. This reminds me of the Heritage Front in Canada. That was I guess a neo-Nazi white supremacist group that existed in Canada. But as it turns out, most of the people involved were undercover cops. Like, I think even the leader at one point, or the deputy leader of the group, was an undercover RCMP officer. Because
the RCMP wouldn't do that.
No. But the supply of racism clearly does not meet the demand. This is, they have to come up with it. And I remember somebody telling me one time, somebody who works in government, and has worked in government for a very long time, telling me about what actually, because there were so many cops involved in the white supremacist movement, not as white supremacists, but as undercovers, that it caused a problem one time. So the Heritage Front, or one of these white supremacist groups that were loosely affiliated with them, they were staging a demonstration down at the legislature. And this is like 2 decades ago, let's say. And the university students at the U of A got wind of it. And so they were going to come across the bridge 109 to straighten everybody out. And there was going to be a big brawl at the legislature. And then so the legislature sheriffs get word that the university students are coming and there's going to be big problems. There's going to be a brawl. So what they had to do is extract all the cops out of the Heritage Front movement demonstration and fake arrest them to get them out of there before they got their wheels beat by all the university students that were coming, because there were so many fake undercovers in the middle of this protest that cops were going to get beaten up all the time. Yeah. How do you do, fellow insurrectionists? Exactly.
Yeah, that's, well, I mean, it's fun. And the other funny thing is, it's they're like, yeah, I better head to this white nationalist thing again tonight. I'm on duty. I'm just going to go out with the boys again to the white nationalist thing. Then all the RCMP officers somehow wind up attending regularly and moving up through the ranks while undercover. I just saw a message here, and I think we may as well mention it. I think Ezra said that the Democracy Fund event for tonight has just sold out. I just had something pop up. So in person. So I believe there is still online, but I believe in-person attendance is sold out. I'm just trying to confirm that, but that does seem to be the case. So that is wonderful news. Very much so.
But if you still want to attend over Zoom, you can still get your tickets at thedemocracyfund.ca/events. And I'm very excited, and so affordable, $5 plus, service fees or whatever, and the government's take. So incredible. And all of this money, this generates money back to the Democracy Fund so that we can help more people, including Pastor Art, because he's in a world of trouble all the time. I think we should pop along, though, to the next thing that we should talk about. Federal Bank warning about the cost of groceries. A federal bank predicts food prices will keep rising into the foreseeable future. Net price increase by wholesalers average more than 8%, it said. So I just want to poke down and see if there is any comment from the Liberals in this story. No, obviously
while
not.
You're looking, while you're looking there, I mean, I think the shocking thing with this is the experts are all saying, who would have thought there'd be inflation? Everyone and their dog knew there was going to be inflation. Dogs were concerned about the price of dog food 6 months ago. This is so self-evident. You're printing money, you're increasing taxes, you're constantly teasing universal basic income or exploring that. We've been on lockdown. People are being fired left, right, and center. Everything from CERB to social assistance networks is devaluing money. And the really shocking thing about this is we're not there yet, but this is how things start, like Venezuela and all these other countries,
Yeah.
to the point where you're burning money to heat your home. Like, if you just keep devaluing things, I think the Ontario NDP is working, their next campaign thing is going to be $20 or minimum wage or something, the NDP in Ontario. Why not 30? Why not 70? Just keep going. Like, if you don't understand that if you turn $10 into $20 and Apple goes from 80 cents to 2, I don't even know what, you know what I mean? Like, but it just, the price of everything just increases by the amount. And when you're printing money nonstop, it devalues money. This has been understood forever. This isn't a surprise. So for Canadian and American experts, I know Kamala was saying, like, well, people now have to choose between buying dinner and then putting gas in their tank. It's like, yeah, because of you. It wasn't like this. It was, and I understand that there's other factors, but
sure,
you're not helping.
Sure. Well, especially when you, like, I think the one major thing, the huge contributor in all of this is fossil fuel inputs into everything, right? So the Canadian government applies a carbon tax, slaps the carbon tax, but then the carbon tax is applied on every step along the chain, but even further back than people think. So we're looking at inputs in fertilizer and barn heating, electricity. That all gets passed along. Farmers, though, are often like price makers, we're price takers, not price makers, in that we lose money if the input cost is too high, and then we're dealing with market prices on food. But after the farmer loses money on the chicken, it still gets added to you every step of the way. To process the chicken, transport the chicken, chill the chicken, store it in the grocery store. Then we're dealing with higher minimum wages in the grocery store for the same work. The bricks and mortar costs that are added because of carbon taxes. So the farmer is poorer, but also the consumer is poorer because of the one carbon tax that is applied every step of the way. And then in the United States, they're asking OPEC to start producing more oil so that they can deal with the fuel prices there. And we're like, we had that perfectly good pipeline that you guys just killed on your first day that was built. It's across the border already. And they killed it on the first day. And then they're like, why the heck is the price of fuel so high? I don't know, Joe. I don't know.
And even on a practical level, like, let's say you don't care about oil, which we obviously do, but let's say you don't.
Oil cares about you. Okay.
Yeah, oil cares about you. But if you're, let's say, a parent or somebody who has a kid, maybe someone in university, and they're working, the amount of small business owners I know, the owner who previously would employ 3 or 4 or 5 people for $15 an hour, the food costs have gotten so high that owner is now working the entire day at their store. Like, they literally get there 8 a.m., leave 9 p.m. They work all day, all week. Some of them have taken to closing one day a week for the sake of their sanity. They're they're making more money than ever because they can't afford to pay somebody. Maybe not with obviously the overhead costs and stuff, but they're not creating those jobs anymore. They're forced to work because they can't afford to pay several people $15 an hour. So then those people who are no longer employed it's a vicious cycle. They then go on EI, which further devalues money because money's being printed when nothing's being produced. So it's this vicious perpetual cycle that just doesn't stop. And it's going to get worse. And the thing is, if you don't cut this off, if you don't eventually get a genuine conservative government to step in and say enough is enough, it will continue to drain. We need a dramatic correction. Unfortunately, that involves Canadians not voting for someone who will just continue to spend. It involves Canadians becoming educated and understanding how inflation works. And it involves people understanding that money doesn't grow on trees, which is something that's a bit of a cliche. We understand it does, literally paper, but people struggle somehow to understand that thing that we're all taught when we just get our first job. That's something all our moms or dads or an uncle or someone says, listen, money doesn't grow on trees. You can't just spend it. And like Thatcher said, eventually you run out of other people's money to spend, or you turn the money into toilet paper.
This is crazy. Statistics Canada, in an October 18th snapshot, said annual food price increases nationwide ranged up to 17% for oranges, 21% for apples, 22% for bacon, 28% for chicken, 29% for pork ribs, and 42% for butter. And don't think for a second that the farmers are making more money, because our input costs are way up, way up.
Yeah.
And so it's not like anybody's getting rich here. This is supply chain issues. It's only going to get worse in Canada because of all the livestock lost in BC, by the way. Canadians get a lot of their pork and chicken from British Columbia. And who does this really hurt at the end of the day? The poor. It's the poor who become protein deficient because there is no affordable protein outside of peanut butter for them. And what a terrible way to live. And you get advocates for the poor like Jagmeet Singh saying, oh, we just need to print more money, which only makes this worse.
Yeah, and particularly, and this is a very Calgary angle, but the Cargill meat factory, they either are striking or they're set to strike. The Lilydale chicken factory, their giant chicken processor broke. And they're not sure if they're going to replace it or shut down or what the story is. This is what I've been told for people in the restaurant industry. I haven't confirmed this for myself, but not only is the cost skyrocketing and there's a scarcity of supplies, and we're going to talk about supply chains in a minute, but so the costs are skyrocketing, and then they're not even sure. The costs have become so dramatic that they're not even sure if they're going to bother replacing their machinery because the costs are so bad right now. Furthermore, it's difficult, as we know from supply chains, to get certain products out there. Lots of products, in fact. There's massive shortages, and that's further contributing to the skyrocketing prices.
And there's one more thing. Canadian and U.S. truckers, this is our next story. Canadian and U.S. truckers warn vaccine mandates will disrupt supply chains. So there's a nice picture of Joe Biden looking confused. Main trucking lobbies in Canada and the United States are warning that vaccine and testing requirements for workers will further disrupt supply chains because there's already a dire shortage of drivers. Canada will require vaccines for truck drivers starting in January. Is this cross-border stuff, I guess? While the Biden administration has issued rules requiring truck drivers at companies with 100 or more employees to be vaccinated or submit to weekly testing. More than 2/3 of goods traded between Canada and the United States travels on roads and highways. For most of the pandemic, truckers crossed the border regularly, and they were considered essential workers to keep supply chains flowing. Yeah, they were the heroes of the day. We know that there already is disruption in the supply chain. This is going to intensify, it said Stephen Leskowski, President and Chief Executive of the Canadian Trucking Alliance, which represents some 4,500 carriers. It estimates that 10 to 20%, or between 12 to 22,000 traveling into Canada would be sidelined if the requirement begins. Holy smokes.
That's yet another in the late.
That's a problem.
Yeah. Just the latest in another, like who would have known? Well, everyone and their dog. When you get rid of skilled workers, you have problems. You can't get rid of 5% of the working population and not have serious problems, not to mention 15 or 20. This is so glaringly problematic, and at least there's some accommodation for testing there. But ultimately, you're seeing that people are being taken out of these vital jobs. We saw we won't get into the details too much about that. We can talk about that when we leave YouTube, but people losing out on skilled jobs. There's a crisis for those skilled jobs, and they're like, well, we can't find anybody to work these jobs. It's like, well, you just fire the people who were working them based on private medical information. So no, you're having issues. That should not come as a surprise to anybody. And this is yet another in the never ending. They're having to hire people. They're having to panic. They're having to scramble. It further inflates costs and creates a demand based on shortages. This too is something so symptomatic and emblematic of what we saw in, whether it be communist countries, Venezuela, socialist countries. this is the land of North America generally, the capitalist parts of Europe is the place where there is a competition, there is a supply, there's an abundance, and people are competing to have the best supply. We're now rapidly, with a couple years of Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden, descending into the era of, can I get some bread? Can I get some beef? There's no longer a quality market. It's is it available at all?
Yeah. Do you remember when, like a couple years ago, we were like, oh, there's toilet paper shortages in Venezuela. And then like the pandemic struck and we're like, oh, there's toilet paper shortages here. And now, like, you go to an Alberta grocery store where we are blessed with abundance here. You go to an Alberta grocery store, and because of how interconnected our supply chains are, on a Saturday at 6 o'clock, if you're rolling into the Save on Foods, the meat counter is bare. Like, there's nothing there. It looks like it's been looted. The only thing left is kubasa. Like that's it, because we've got all the kubasa the Lord ever wanted us to have here in Alberta. But it's you think that it won't touch you because, I live in Alberta. We do all of our own farming. But just because of the nature of supply chains, where your grocery store gets its supplies from, it's going to touch you if it hasn't already. Yeah. And I think that should wrap up that story. Before we should talk about the store. One
more thing quickly before that, sorry, and we just added it while you were on the meeting. So the Shannon Stubbs story, I don't know if you had a chance to see it at all, but
I did.
Aaron
I glanced.
Yeah. So Aaron O'Toole has effectively launched Shannon Stubbs, of course, being an Alberta member of Parliament who dared suggest that perhaps Aaron O'Toole was not the most effective leader moving forward, as, again, yet another in the never-ending list of things everyone and their dogs know. So she dared suggest that. So suddenly, and this is the latest in the Aaron O'Toole being harder on Conservatives than he is on Justin Trudeau saga, Aaron O'Toole has launched a probe because two staffers complained that back in 2016, they painted a room at her house. She didn't know about it, apparently. She came home to have her room painted and was pleasantly surprised. They effectively suggested that, well, she had been complaining about the room needing to be painted and she's too busy to do it, something along those lines. So they went and painted her house without her knowing. They said that she never told them to paint the house, but that they thought their workplace would be more pleasant if they just painted her house. So it seems by every metric that they did a nice thing for her and she was appreciative of it. Well, now that she has dared question Aaron O'Toole's leadership, she's under review for abuse because they've come forward complaining that this is not, they're not supposed to be painting her private space. I can just picture boring Aaron O'Toole sitting there being like, this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. I'm going to break the story that someone painted a room at her house, and the most boring story ever, quite possibly. But if Aaron O'Toole had half of this zeal, rather than suppressing and quelling conservative voices that are actually representing their people, if he was as critical of liberal policies and if he was even remotely principled as a conservative, he might have beat Justin Trudeau.
I can see in the monitor that I can't even hide my own disgust and boredom with this story. This speaks to Aaron O'Toole's complete and total disconnect with Alberta again. Shannon Stubbs is one of the most popular MPs in her riding in the entire country. She's beloved. She's everywhere. The woman will attend the opening of an envelope. She is everywhere in her community, and people like her. Even people who don't like Aaron O'Toole like Shannon Stubbs. She's been a powerful advocate for the ag sector. She's been a powerful advocate for oil and gas, powerful advocate for even public sector union workers. When the Liberals moved to close an immigration processing center and move it to a Liberal riding in Edmonton back in 2015, 2016, she was out there sticking up for those PSAC members when their union wouldn't, because their union is beholden to the Liberals. People love her. And so Aaron O'Toole says, let's expend a whole pile of political capital and go after Shannon Stubbs. Why? Because Shannon Stubbs is on Team Denise Batters. That's what this is all about. Yeah. Denise Batters, the conservative senator who said, you know what? Let's give the people, let's put aside all the like backroom finagling and the important official conservatives and what they have to say, and let's take it to the members and see what the members have to say about Erin O'Toole, the grassroots, right? And Shannon very reasonably said, yeah, that's probably a good idea. It's probably a good idea to let the people have their say. And for that, they trudge up a 5-year-old scandal about a painted room. Give me a break.
She's probably working on that union case when they painted her room. That's what she was doing.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, she was probably sticking up for PSAC members, working her butt off. I'll never forget the speech she gave at that committee meeting. She was fighting tears because of the horror stories that she was hearing about what it would mean for Vegreville if 1/3 of the workforce just moved out of town, which is ultimately what the Liberals mostly did. But it's just, this is so ridiculous. Justin Trudeau, the WE scandal is still ongoing. I don't know. In a rare moment of actual good journalism, I watched the not W5, that's CTV, Fifth Estate, the recent Fifth Estate they actually took what we said were schools that were built in Africa and went to find the schools that were built in Africa. And apparently we had sold the same school to different people over and over again, saying, oh, you built schoolhouse number 4.
Yeah, I saw that same picture over and over. Same
picture over and over. They actually did good boots on the ground journalism. Somebody at CBC obviously wants to get fired. But that's still unfolding. That should stick to the Prime Minister like stink.
Yeah.
And no, because Erin O'Toole's too busy fighting with actual conservatives to do his job, holding the government to account.
He's like, and the thing that he's not getting is from a broader spectrum, the fact that he's put this on blast, he thinks he's making a point about how like dissidents won't be tolerated. What he's actually doing is creating a whole narrative, even though this sounds, I mean, if there's validity to it and something comes of it, good. I'm happy they're looking into it. It doesn't sound like it. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. But what this does, this is something that could have very easily been handled internally and properly. What he's done is created an entire narrative about how there's a toxic culture within the Conservatives and they're abusive towards their underlings and it's entitlement. That's what he's saying. And it's true. And it's not true of Stubbs necessarily, but it's true of Erin O'Toole. Anyone who dares question him better start painting his house. Otherwise, they're going to be investigated for some 5-year-old trumped-up charge. I think it'd be great. I'm sure she couldn't accept it as a politician, but imagine if some painting company came up and offered to paint her whole house in response to this. I think that'd be absolutely hilarious.
My brother-in-law has a painting company in the Lakeland. But I mean, so, and also I'm supposed to believe that someone in the Lakeland region, one of the hardest working regions of this entire country, farmers and oil patch, I'm supposed to believe that their feelings were hurt because she asked them to paint a room and they did it. She didn't
ask them. She didn't ask them to.
Or somebody asked them to. Yeah. Or
no,
somebody,
they just did
painted
a
a room and they did it.
Like this is the insane thing that they it sounds like by their own account, they surprised her by painting her room because they could tell she was like stressed about this room not being painted. They flat out said that she never asked them to do it. And then she said she was pleasantly surprised to come home to have her room painted. It's the most Erin O'Toole scandal. Like it's literally like Justin Trudeau like doing one of the hundreds of extremely scandalous things he does. And then Erin O'Toole breaking a story because Justin Trudeau likes pineapples on his pizza. It's so off the base of what he should be doing. And if anything, this should solidify that Erin O'Toole has no business leading any party.
Okay, let's read this. The painting of the house was a wonderful surprise I didn't know about. Okay, she sounds grateful, by the way. It was a wonderful gift of kindness on the part of the staff members, said Ms. Stubbs. I never asked or directed the staff to paint my bedroom. This is the worst they can come up with Shannon Stubbs. Yeah. The Liberals have the same MP walking around with his Johnson out for the world to see twice. And this is what Aaron O'Toole is worried about right now. Again, let's go back to the skyrocketing inflation. Like the cost of chicken's approaching 30%. Poor people are going to be malnourished, but we're worried that Shannon Stubbs 6 years ago, 5 years ago, somebody painted a room.
Yeah,
and they're doing an investigation.
Ridiculous.
They're just stupid.
The sensible modern MPs who might be upset about Aaron O'Toole's leadership but don't want to ruffle any feathers.
Yeah.
Enough is enough. It's now on you. You're now complicit. You're now culpable. Some of you I'd consider friends or decent people at the very least. But the whole mentality of you're trying to do the best you can within the system with this unrecognizable, boring. I'm sure Aaron O'Toole might be a decent guy. He can go be a decent guy somewhere where he's not destroying the country and letting Justin Trudeau win time after time after time. We've talked about all of these issues. We've talked about the supply chain issues. We've talked about the attacks on oil and energy. We've talked about these pastors being locked up, like we're going to talk about tonight. Aaron O'Toole has been nowhere in any of these issues. He's nowhere on costs. He's nowhere on the persecution of people based on their private medical history. That's all I'll say on that, YouTube. He's nowhere. This is an opportunity for a real conservative to establish a conservative leadership that will be in power forever. Not forever, you know what I mean, though, but another reign of conservative, principled values that can get Canada back on track. Justin Trudeau is the golden ticket to that. He is so ridiculous. Anyone with any political sensibility leading the Conservative Party should be able to capitalize on that. Conservatives need to become bold again and elect a leader. They need to stop electing leaders who don't want to lose, because that's what we've had in conservatism. We have people who are like, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. Hopefully Justin Trudeau will screw up enough. But hopefully he'll screw up enough. We don't need that. We need a conservative who will say, we have the best ideas. We have the best ideas. That's it. Let's go Canada. That's what we need. Not someone who goes after Shannon Stubbs instead of Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, and I'm watching the rest of these conservative members, particularly from Alberta. Shannon didn't do anything wrong as best as I can tell, and I know it, and I think you guys know it too. And if you sit on your hands and keep your mouths shut while this hatchet job is done on Shannon, why? Because she wanted to give the members a chance to have their say. I'm judging you all accordingly.
Listen, Aaron O'Toole is not going to be the Prime Minister of Canada ever. He won't.
No, never.
It's never going to happen. If you're a principled MP who does the right thing right now, you may be a member of Parliament for the rest of your life. You may continue to win. Yeah. But if you stay on, you have to win the votes of your constituents. If you're popular and if you're successful, the Conservative Party will not throw you out. They shouldn't anyways. It'd be ridiculous if they did. It would just further testify to how bad Aaron O'Toole is. It's time to take a stand now. It's time to stand up for your constituents, because there is barely anyone knows who Aaron O'Toole is. I've talked to people. Catherine did a report. Dave's done reports. We went out there and asked people with a picture of Aaron O'Toole, do you know who this is? People, like half of people in Calgary don't recognize the man. He's not going to become the Prime Minister.
In Calgary.
He's in Calgary. In the place where they should win. We lost a constituency, a riding in Calgary, to Justin Trudeau conservative or liberal candidates who steal from people's porches. Aaron O'Toole has failed. Yeah. That's it. Aaron O'Toole has failed. MPs, do the right thing. Moving on.
Do the right thing. Yeah. Let's move on to the store. We'll do the store promo, then we'll say goodbye to our friends who are watching us on YouTube, but not really goodbye. Just kind of see you in a minute. So if you go to rebelnewsstore.com, looks really great. I have, for some reason on my browser, I have the fun Christmassy background, the Christmas wrapping. There we go. Yes. I really like that.
Looks and like I kind of like a mix of Yankee and Andrew.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. And actually, if you go down, the girl looks like Catherine's little sister. Looks like she could be Catherine's sister, right?
Definitely.
Rebelnewsstore.com. It's free global shipping. If you use the coupon code Sheila10, you can only use it once, so make it count. Or Adam 10, and again, you can only use it once, so load the card up and order early because of supply chain issues and the unreliability of the post office. Anyways, there's some great stuff in there, new stuff in there, changing all the time. There's Christmas stuff, but it's not too Christmassy stuff. If you want to wear a fun conversation starter at Christmas dinner with your pro-vax family, get in there, get something. Let's see if they can mind their own business. Anyways, it's fun, for the cantankerous uncle in your life, or the rebellious friend. There's something in there for everybody. And I really like the toques. We've got pom-pom toques in there now, which I think maybe I should get one or two.
Yeah, I need to get a toque for sure.
Anyways, that's rebelnewsstore.com.
Christmas presents. Yeah, check it out. Great Christmas presents. And again, it's a way I see people out in the streets. I'm at the store or I'm out somewhere. I'll see someone with a shirt on. I'll go up and talk to them. We'll often have them on camera for doing interviews. It's an absolute blast, but it really helps support independent journalism as well. So you're not only getting a sweet shirt out of it, but you're helping us continue to tell the stories. So check it out, rebelnewsstore.com.
AD, can you let us know when we're clear of YouTube? If you're watching us on YouTube, visit us over on Rumble, Super U, and Odyssey, where we will continue streaming the